Hello everyone. Once again, this is your instructor, Sir Jikens. So welcome in our online discussion in this course, Research 2 or Thesis Writing. So this would be the um, second part of your journey in the research subject. So we are now in chapter 2. So we are done with the chapter 1. So we have the rationale, literature background, methodologies, and other parts. So we are now in chapter 2 and I will only discuss about the overview of what are the contents that should be seen on your chapter 2. So I will only discuss the overview. So part of the main part of the chapter 2 are the presentation, analysis, and interpretation of the data. So these three things are the important component of your chapter 2. Okay, so you're going to present the data, you're going to analyze the data, and you're going to interpret the data that you have collected after you distribute the questionnaire to your respondents or participants. So again, this chapter will present the elements and the concepts of presenting, analyzing, and interpreting the data to answer the specific problems that is mentioned on your chapter 1 in your SOP. Okay, so let us all finish strong and let us continue to work out our research paper or our thesis in order for us to graduate on your program. Now let's proceed to the presentation of the data. So for the presentation of the data, again, there are three main components of chapter 2: the presentation, the analysis, and the interpretation of the data. So the first one is the presentation of data. So this part presents the data that you have gathered during the distribution of your questionnaire, survey questionnaire, and the information that you obtain from collecting the data. So you're going to begin your results with the general statements. Okay, you're going to present the general statements. That means something to the reader. Then, as necessary, support this statement with the appropriate figures. Appropriate figures. What do you mean by appropriate figures? That represents the table. Okay. So before the table, you have a general statement. Okay. You will have a general statement. Then the narrative portion of the section should stand on its own tables. Others have charts, but for us, we don't follow the charts, and also other illustrations, and should only verify or elaborate points made in the text. So by showing these results in words, it is also augmented with a few numbers as possible and refer to the interested reader to the more detailed presentation on the tables. So if you choose to present your results by writing the results are summarized in table, you should guide your reader through the table, and then you need to highlight the trend, the range of the values, and other interesting aspects. Okay, and then do not leave the reader to sort out the figures and decide what they mean. That is why in my previous online discussion, I have elaborated that you need to rearrange your statement um, that is put in your table. So you need to put the highest weighted mean at the top, and then you need to put the lowest weighted mean at the bottom. By doing that, you are helping the readers to easily navigate him or herself, or to easily see the highest weighted mean and the lowest weighted mean, so that he can easily understand the presentation of your data. Okay, again, you need to put first a general statement before the table, and then you're going to show the table. Okay, that represents the data, and then you need to rearrange. And don't worry, I will send you the link on my drive from the previous manuscript of the students. Okay, so you will at least you will have a guide what they are what they did on their manuscript. Okay, so for the presentation of the data, first thing to do is you need to start with a brief introductory paragraph. Okay, don't worry, after this online discussion, in my next online discussion, I'm going to show to you the sample um, chapter 2. Okay, so for this online discussion, I will just only talk about the overview of this chapter 2. So start with a brief introductory paragraph, okay? That's on the top of the tables, giving the purpose of the data in the table. The second one, you need to follow it with the statement presenting the table itself, okay? General statement or introductory paragraph and then the table. The third one, or lastly, analyze and interpret the findings therein, okay? So the first part, okay, for the part one, the general statement. The part 2, the tables. Part 3, the analysis and the interpretations of the data or the findings. Okay. Next, let's proceed to the analysis and interpretation. Again, the first one is the presentation. The remaining two is the analysis and the interpretation. First, I'm going to discuss the second part that will present the principles, the relationship, and generalization shown by the results. So the results need to be compared, okay, and interpreted with those in previous published work. That is why when you have this interpretation, analysis and interpretation of your data, you need to quote also the related studies or having a related results or findings from your study, okay, to back up your claims. Because when you have this presentation, presenting the data, we have this own interpretation, and it must be based also from the other study, okay, to make our claim more reliable. So first, there is again principles, relationship, and generalization, and the results needs to be compared and interpreted in previous published work. That is why you need also to cite a related study that is related not just only for your study but also from the results that you have presented on your table. Next is the implications of your results as well as the practical applications must be discussed. Okay, so this would be one of the hardest part of a research paper or thesis. Okay, I think there's only a minimal problems with regards to the chapter 1 because you will have just copy and paraphrase the statements and you will put it in your chapter 1. But for the chapter 2, it is quite difficult because it must be in your own words. Okay, the implications of your results as well as the practical applications must be discussed on this part on the analysis and interpretation of the data. So the presentation of the data in a tabular, okay, um, data in a tabular, it means in the table, and textual forms, okay, textual, it means a text or a paragraph or a statements. It must be follow the arrangement of the specific problems that is posited in your chapter 1. Okay, you need to follow the arrangement of the specific problems that can be found in your statement of problems that is seen in your chapter 1. So the presentation of the results and discussion should follow the sequence of the statement of the problem. Okay? So there must be a sequence, proper arrangement. Okay, for statement subproblems number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So if you arrange on that pattern or sequence, it also be seen in your chapter 2, the arrangement. Same with the SOP or subproblems that can be found in your chapter 1. Also, you need to make sure that you have described the conditions which obtain for each set of results. So, what was held constant? What were the other relevant parameters? So, you need to make sure also that you have used the appropriate statistical analysis. Okay? Statistical analysis. What are those? Like, for example, what we have used frequency, percentage, weighted mean, and for the inferential statistics like ANOVA, t-test, um, and other formula that being used to analyze your data. And also, in most cases, your results need a discussion. Okay, so what do you mean? And also, how they fit into the existing body of knowledge. Okay, you're not just presenting the data, but also you need to interpret the data, and you may also compare from the other results from the other study. Like, uh, these questions must be answered like, um, do they give new insights? Do they suggest new theories or mechanism? So those questions must be answered also on the discussion part of your chapter 2. Also try to distance yourself from your usual perspective and look at your work. So do not just ask yourself what it means in terms of the accepted belief of your own research group, but also how other people in the field might see it. Okay, so on your interpretation of your data, it must not be only from your own thoughts or from your group mates. Your interpretation of the data must also have a baseline from the other studies. Okay? So as you read the data, you must not conclude immediately, but rather you need also to read from the other results of their studies so that you have this balance of the interpretation of your data. So, what do you mean by subjective? It means that when you see your data on the table and then you have your own interpretation, that would be subjective. Okay, because it is based only from your own understanding. It is only based on your own experience, not just for your own, but also from your group mates as well. And when we say objective, your interpretation of the data is based on the results from the other related studies. That is why it is essential that we need not just to interpret immediately, but also to read the other related studies in order for us to have a what? In order for us to have a balance. Okay? In order for us to have a balance, when we have the interpretation of the data. Okay, we need to balance the subjective and the objective discussion. That is why it is very important that we need to read different literature, read different related studies, so that you have this broader understanding of your data. I mean, thesis or research before you will interpret in your chapter 2. Okay, so That's all for our online discussion for the overview of the chapter 2. So in the next video, I'm going to discuss, at the same time I will show to you the examples of the chapter 2 and the different parts, which is the presentation, analysis, and interpretation of the data. I hope that you will follow all the instructions so that it will become easy for you, especially during the oral defense, and it will become smooth and you will have the minimal corrections of your research paper so that you will also have more time to edit or more time to flourish your research paper. Okay, so I hope that you have learned from this online discussion, and we will have a short quiz via Google form to make sure that you fully understand on my discussion, because once one of my observation, only the leaders or the assistant leaders watch the online discussion, and then they are only people who learn from this subject. Okay, so I'm going to have this online quiz in order for us that all of us will learn from this subject or from this course, not just the leaders, but also the members. And it will become also beneficial for you when we have this Q&A activity in our face-to-face class. Once again, thank you for listening, and I hope that you enjoy learning. Bye-bye.